My name is Jacob from the Cause Production crew, and for this segment of the Monthly Focus, we have Chris, a cybersecurity professional, here today, and he's going to teach us a little bit about cyber safety and how we can stay safe online. So how are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for having me.
So before we actually start this interview, just very briefly, could you give us, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
My name is Chris Wooters. I am a cybersecurity expert. I work for G3, which is a company that works to different contracts with the federal government.
Very interesting. So I'm sure obviously you know about cyber safety and especially why cyber safety is so important. So could you tell us, why is cyber safety so important? You know, why is it so critical to have good cyber safety? And could you also give us some statistics on damage caused by cyber safety incidents?
Cyber safety is very important because in today's day and age, we actually use it in everything that we do. As the technology evolves and we become more reliant on different technology, it becomes more important that we make sure that we lock down everything we use. As the time has gone on, we become more and more dependent on having different interactions with the different cyber pieces, and most of our livelihood is surrounding these different things. It just happens that as we become more needing to have this different cyber pieces to be there, that we need to secure it more. So as we go and we starting putting regulations to things that we used to have regulations on things that happened 50 years ago, now we need to move those regulations to be able to help secure down and lock down these things that we're using with the cyber side. There are statistics right now that over $30 billion this last year was came up subject from ransomware attacks. Now that's a lot of money, and you and I can't really pay that amount of money. But as we go along, if we do not secure our devices and if we don't secure what we're doing, it'll become more easy for other people to hurt ourselves. And if we look at it, everything now is attached to the internet. So everything that we work with is attached to needing to be cyber secure and to be cyber safe, or the things like our electricity. Someone could hack in, they could cause an outage across the whole United States if we're not secure. So things like that part.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, a big chunk of the damage caused by cyber attacks are aimed at individuals who have data stored in certain organizations, whether it's a bank or a shop or a company. These data breaches obviously cause a lot of damage. So if a person is involved in a data breach where their information is stolen by cyber attackers, what can they do to minimize the damage and try to recover as much of their data as possible?
It depends on where the top of the breaches are happening and what they're trying to look at. The first defense would be, one, to make sure that you are able to lock everything down that you need. So you need to see if it's your personal stuff that's being captured or not, or if there's a breach on your personal side, or if it's actually becoming a part of a business. So that's two different parts. If it's to deal with the United States, you should call the FBI. You need to make sure that they are on board with knowing that this breach has happened, so that way they can do different data looks. If it's on your machine at your house, you should shut off your machine the way it is right there, so that way the FBI can actually look at seeing where the breach is at. If it's on your phone, make sure you don't do anything with your phone, so that way they can look at the data there. And then you need to start looking at following up. As you get to the next point of where you're dealing with credit, you need to look at your credit scores. You need to look at Experian to see if there are different things that are hitting your credit that maybe cause issues, that you could see that you might have a larger footprint than you initially thought. And then to start seeing where your cyber safety might need to intel. Look at your bank accounts. Look at your different accounts that come into your credit report. You should probably pull a credit report pretty quick to make sure that other people are not looking into your accounts. Experian and these other credit agencies will help you in that way to make sure you stay safe and help you along the way. But the first thing is, like I said, to contact the FBI, let them know that you have had this happen, and then go from there.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned, I believe in the first question, that so many more devices that are being sold today are able to connect to the internet, whether they're a smartwatch or a voice assistant like Amazon Alexa, or even smart refrigerators. They can even connect to the internet now. So what risks are present with these devices that can connect to the internet or the cloud, and how can we minimize risks to our privacy or our safety with these applications and devices?
A lot of different things that you now have available, like your Apple Watches and your TVs, your refrigerators, your toasters even now can be on the internet. You have to look at how you're able to secure those down. The biggest deal is most of the time the firmware on these are not upgraded. Now what the firmware is the firmware is actually the piece of a code that tells the device how to operate and how to get on the network or how to get to the internet, stuff like that. A lot of times there's breaches and there's things that happen there where there's a way for there to be a cybersecurity risk. And if it was on your computer or if it was on your phone, those people would be able to secure that up and lock it down and do it a whole lot faster and get that firmware update to you at a quicker time. Where if it's your toaster that no one really looks at, or your TV, those firmware updates don't get done as often. So you have cases where people are able to looking at your camera that's on your TV and watch what you're doing, or they might be able to look and see what you're watching on your TV just by walking by or driving by and to be able to get on your network. That's why it's very important. One is to keep all your stuff updated as quick as possible. So all the different firmware updates that you can do those right away. And second is to be able to segregate. So in cybersecurity, there is a model called the zero trust. And zero trust means that we like to, every single piece of data that we have, we like to make sure that we don't trust anything. So you as a piece of data comes across, every single piece of that, you make sure that you follow up and make sure that it's trusted before you let them into your network. As we're doing that, the part of that you can actually do at your house is segment your network. So if you're going to put all your devices on your network, put it on a guest account or your guest network. So that way, if you want to have your devices that are attached to the internet, have those devices be attached to your guest network, because that does not get you inside of your personal network where you're communicating with your phone, you're communicating with your laptop or your desktop. That has a wider way of getting that stuff across there. The second thing is looking at VPNs. If you are out throughout the world, and I'm kind of getting ahead with this, but if you're out and you're in a free Wi-Fi, make sure that you don't accept and go through that Wi-Fi unless you have a VPN in place, because that way you're able to encrypt what you have and make sure you're able to secure what you have. That way you're not sharing with these devices, especially out in the public, because there's more likely those devices are not getting updated.
Yeah, absolutely. And these devices that are being sold online and in person, of course, are available for everyone to purchase. And something that our audience might want to know is the methods of how you and other cybersecurity professionals teach people how to be safe, especially, of course, those who are younger, but also those who are older. Because, of course, people who were born in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, they grew up with modems and floppy disks and really big telephones. So how would you change your teaching method with a person who grew up earlier in the 20th century versus like a teenager who just got their first phone today?
As someone who was born in the 80s, I'm going to try not to take offense to that, but there's different ways you have to be able to talk to somebody. This generation that's available right now, the people that are growing up now, it's easy for them just to give a guided speech on how to do some of these things and bring it in there. The other type of different technology and getting it into other generations, I think it's very important that you're able to talk on their level and you're able to relate things at their level, because there are different things that you need to be able to put in place, and you need to be able to lock down things in different ways that it makes someone cyber secure. And often it's just no different than if you or I were to be talking to someone else that's maybe just not fluent in cyber. If you have someone here that does not know what a computer is or how to work a computer, it doesn't matter what their age is. You'll need to be able to speak with them at that level to be able to get communications down there. And the second part is being able to give them an application where they don't have to worry as much on the cybersecurity side. So you look to set them up with a way of having the cybersecurity all together where you would not have to have as much stuff widely available. One of the hardest things right now is dealing with people that are getting different viruses or getting different phone calls over the internet or via their phone that they think that it's normal and that's actually the real person. Cyber, this day and age right now, they can actually take you or I's voice, use AI, and have it say whatever we want to. Well, how do you fix that? How do you know if someone calls you up and says, I need you to transfer $2,500 into my account, here's my routing account, and it sounds like your grandma? How do you teach someone that that's not actually who they say it is? That doesn't matter what the age is. There's a lot of different things that people are getting sneakier and sneakier. The thing that all we can do is try to get as much security in place as possible, and as things go along, be able to communicate with other people, let them know that it's there. So the biggest will is awareness. and being able to communicate more and more with different ages to know that this is out there. Because if I tell you this, you probably already knew this. You know what AI can do, but somebody that was born in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they may not know that AI can do that. So we have to have the awareness campaign to let them know it's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to move on to viruses and malware, because these are threats that are very significant that can infect computers, phones, tablets, and almost any device connected to the internet. One type of virus and piece of malware is called a drive-by download. So what is a drive-by download, and how can we protect ourselves against that?
Basically, drive-by downloads, you have to be able to basically know where you're at and what you're getting information from. A lot of places, and this can be happening in multiple different ways, from having your NFC turned on and someone bumping up against you and loading packets on your phone that you didn't know was coming by, to going onto a hotspot you think was a legitimate hotspot, and it's putting stuff on your machine as you're going on the hotspot. There are different ways that you can lock this down, but the biggest thing is to look at the security that you can put in place from the very beginning to stop things to automatically getting loaded in there. Yes, it takes a little bit more for you to actually get the information that you want, but it's very important for us to look to see, is it worth the time? Is it worth the risk? And that's where, as we go and we think, yes, it's a whole lot easier for me just to have my NFC wide open, or it's easier for me to connect to this connection that's Wi-Fi that's open, and I need to get to the internet without using my data. It's easier to do this. What are you compromising for that? And that's the part where you have to make the risk decision to whether or not you're going to do that or not. But it is something we have to look at, and it's no different than it can happen anywhere. Especially with our devices, we have our phones that we carry around us wherever we go. We have more technology, more information on our phones these days than anyone ever has before. And it's easily accessible for it to be a bump and run where someone bumps into you and puts something on your phone without you even knowing it, that we really need to be watching that and knowing where we have our settings at and locking down our phones as we go on.
Yeah, so it seems like a big component of staying safe online is being vigilant, which is why the final question for this interview is about that. Some people say that the best antivirus out there is your brain, meaning that it's crucial to use your own common sense and intellect to stay safe online. So with that in mind, my concluding question for this interview is, what are some good mental practices and habits and attitudes that we should adopt online to keep ourselves safe?
The first thing is to think what you're doing. Think about your safety. A lot of things nowadays, we think about convenience. And we really have to take a second to think back. I'm not against getting hurt with this. I mean, I'll be honest, it was 2 years ago. Black Friday was happening, and a deal came online. Someone sent to my email. It looked like it was from Amazon. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't think very much on it. What do? I click on it because, this is a great deal. The first thing is, like you said, you need to use your brain. If something is too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. And we have to look at how we go forward with that and know that we can't do these things. We have to take a second. So my first and the best advice I can give you is to take a second to think about what you're going to do. Because when it comes to different cyber stuff and it comes to going forward with this, the security side of it a lot of times can be mitigated just for us taking a second and thinking over everything before we go forward. If we'll take that second and use our brain to think about, hey, did Grandma really call me and ask me to transfer $1,200 to her account in Brazil? Is that actually Grandma? Or is that someone else that, maybe I should call Grandma and see if it's actually her or not. And just to be taking that second to follow up. As we get more and more and we see these things that are going to be out there that are dealing with AI and that are making it look like we're everything else, just taking that extra moment to see and to check to see if things are the way they should be, just that thing right there will help us out, and they'll be able to lock down a lot of things that we would not do in any other way.
Yeah, definitely. It is so vital to use our own brain and to ingrain these practices in our minds to protect us online. Thank you so much, Chris. That was Chris, a cybersecurity professional, giving us some amazing tips and information on how to stay safe online. And I'm confident that with the knowledge you provide with us today, we can ensure that as we progress through the digital age, we can stay safe and protect our information, data, and privacy online. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Hit that like button and subscribe to the cause.